Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. Coming at you with some Maliss gameplay. It's going to be all going second games. And definitely do not sleep on this deck like I did when I made my tier list. A lot of people were very well within their right to point out that I placed Maliss very low on the tier list at tier 3. And I wanted to show all of these going second games to kind of highlight just how strong this deck actually is. I played these like all in a row, by the way. I'm not even really cherry-picking games here. This first game is going to be against like a Runick Fiendsmith deck. As you can see, they are able to pull off the fountain here. They only got one draw off of it. However, they are going to be able to pivot into their Fiendsmith engine. I'm going to wait until they summon Lacrima, the Crimson Tears, before I go into my Imperm here. Debatably should have waited until they went into sequence, but one reason I like to Imperm the Lacrima in a situation like this sometimes is that way they don't have the Engraver set up for future plays, right? And a deck like Runick, I could be in for a grind game. So they have a Runick tip here. I'm gonna guess that they drew this as their one card off the fountain. Otherwise, it wouldn't have made much sense for them to activate Golden Droplet and then go for the fountain draw. This felt like a little bit of a desperation play, and again, I'm guessing that the tip came off of that, but it does mean that this is going to get to draw multiple cards on my turn, which is obviously not ideal. Now, this is actually a really good matchup for me, of course, because as they banish my cards, that's going to be really good, and we even top deck the Ash Blossom. Beautiful. We're going to go activate Allure of Darkness. My opponent's going to immediately chain Lacrima the Crimson Tears, summoning the Requiem. And we actually managed to peel Fulos off the Allure, which is really nice here because we're going to go Chessy Cat effect. My opponent will actually proactively use the Requiem, meaning I get to activate my Fulos and get a draw off of it, which is pretty insane considering it's my turn. Alright, there's Fua. They're going to summon Lacrima. We draw the White Rabbit. It's a good card to banish off Allure. They're going to go draw off Necroquip and then Lacrima send. Note that I'm not using my Ash Blossom here. Again, I'm definitely holding that for the fountain draws. We're going to go activate Chessy Cat, and that does manage to bait out the Freezing Curses. I obviously don't care if my Chessy Cat gets negated here because I have plenty of other cards in my hand. And they even banish a White Rabbit from my deck, which I was just going to banish from my hand off Chessy Cat anyway. There's Fountain to draw to. We're going to fire off the Ash Blossom to negate. And now they're left with basically a couple of unknown cards and then just the one face down card. And it doesn't look like those were enough to get them into any major plays because they conceded at this point. So if I had kept comboing into my turn, and this is something that you're going to see in the replays that I'll show you here coming up, basically I would have just gone Heart Scripter into Access Code, and then use that in order to set up an OTK. That's when you're going second with Maliss, that's going to be how you're going to end your duels. Pretty much, not all the time, but a lot of the time. You know what, why don't I just go ahead and show you our next replay, which will highlight that. If I'm remembering right, this was against like a Fiendsmith Dracotail, which I've seen like a couple of lists floating around online. It's an interesting concept. If I see the opening hand, I'll remember which game it is. Yep, this was against Fiendsmith Dracotail. Because they're going to go first here and actually fire off the Engraver right off the bat, which is pretty good news for me. Because Engraver is going to add Tract, and this is the literal one point in the Fiendsmith line where the deck is actually weak to Droll and Lockbird. Because, of course, the Tract has to add the Lurie, but those are the only searches, Tract and Engraver, that Fiendsmith inherently does. So next up I saw a Bestial Magnum Hut from my opponent, and my first thought was Fiendsmith control, because I've been playing that a lot lately. They're going to go Magnum Hut, banish their Engraver. I don't care about this effect, that's fine. And then here's Wahoo Dracotail, which I'm going to fire off the Ash Blossom against that. So I'm sitting really good right now. I know that one of these three cards in hand is Tract, and that leaves only two possibilities for potential hand traps. And we even top deck Called By. We're going to lead with Normal Summon Chessy Cat. They're going to use Ash Blossom, and I think I will end up using the Called By here. Because at this point, they only have one other card. I mean, if it's Maxi, it is what it is. And I'll just have to push through it. But that might have been a little bit greedy. I definitely did not need this Chessy Cat to resolve because I have the Gold Sark. But I don't know. I like having my options open here. Plus, the odds of this being exactly like Maxi would be very, very low. Alright, so I'm just going to go into Splash Mage here. As you can see, I have a wealth of extenders in my hand now, but there's no reason to go into them if I don't have to, because they could still fire off like a Nibiru from my hand. However, at this point, they're going to show me that their last card is Swarm, and this is actually, if you pay attention to how I was activating my effects here, you'll note that I activated Splash Mage to target specifically Chessy Cat. And the likelihood of them having a Bestial is the exact reason why I did that. It wasn't even just the likelihood because they already showed me Magnum Hut. There's literally no reason not to do it here. I actually discussed this in my Maliss combo guide, but for those of you who haven't seen it or who want a refresher, basically the idea is that I haven't used Chessy Cat's Banish effect, so there's no reason not to target it with Splash Mage in case they have exactly, a Bestial monster. Granted, I have extenders in my hand, but if I didn't, then I would have been forced to end my turn here. Chessy Cat effect activates, we summon, then I'm going to link these two into the white binder, and at this point, now I know the last card in their hand is tracked, and the only card in their graveyard is Rahu, so the path to victory is very clear to me. We just need to go Heart Scripter access code, as mentioned before. So I'm going to go GWC, Banish White Binder, Revive Chessy Cat, draw a card, just to see what I get. We're just going to go Gold Sark for the Dormouse here. Dormouse, F to summon. I'll use Dormouse to banish March Hare and then add March Hare off its effect, but actually, I think I will need it. I was going to say I won't need it, but I think I will here in a second. White Binder set MTP. That I don't need, because we're going to banish Swarm off of the Heart Scripter. Alright, so we're going to go March Hare effect, banish GWC to summon, Heart Scripter effect, put back the GWC, banish Swarm so it doesn't trigger. Now I can link Heart Scripter plus March Hare into my access code talker. At this point, we can go access code talker effect, banish Heart Scripter, destroy the Magnum Hut. Of course, Heart Scripter will revive with double attack points, and very easy way to lethal. It not only sets up well more than 8,000 damage on your board, but you get to banish and destroy cards in your opponent's field along the way. So, in a lot of scenarios, actually, I kind of prefer going second with Maliss in a lot of hands, because Maliss has had so many of its starters limited that we're on like 18 hand traps. I'll show you the deck list after this last game here in a second, but there are a lot of hands where I look at this and I'm like, I am very glad I went second. And then we're able to find the pretty easy access code Heart Scripter line for lethal there. I mentioned I had one more game. Let's go ahead and finish off with that one. Another going second game, as mentioned. These are all going to be going second duels here. I actually don't remember off the top of my head what this was against, but I guess we'll find out here in a second. Unless it was one of those games where they just passed without doing anything, but I'm pretty sure I didn't include any like that. Oh, it's Dracotail again. I should have guessed. We're definitely going to use the Ash Blossom against the Rahu. That is absolutely the most valuable turn 1 target for the Ash Blossom. They're going to go normal summon Malulu and then fuse it with a Fuelos in hand. So Malulu plus any monster is a pretty weak Dracotail combo line compared to the rest, so I'm really not that concerned about it. Also, they would need Rahu in order to be able to fully set up anyway, so all they're going to really get to do here is use Malulu set Flame, and then they can wheel the Malulu back to their hand, but that doesn't do anything in their hand. So I'm looking at my hand right now, and also their inboard state, right? I'm always thinking about this, especially towards the end of my opponent's turn. What do I know that they have? What do I don't know that they have? So we know one of these 3 cards is Malulu, meaning there's really only 2 that could be Find Meta / hand traps that we have to worry about. However, I'm pretty convinced that Find Meta is not in their hand, because there would have been no reason for them to have not activated it, right? So we don't have to worry about that. It could be potential hand traps. This is Dracotail Flame, which could negate our Allure of Darkness, but I already have Dormouse, March Hare, and Wizard, so I'm actually feeling pretty good going into my opponent's turn here. Draw for turn, we find a Maxi. Not a horrible top deck in this scenario, given what else we have. We're going to go Swarm, banish Chessy Cat, special summon Chessy Cat, activate to banish March Hare, and draw 2. Droll and Imperm, interesting but not super needed. We can add the March Hare back. Now, I'm going to link off the Dormouse, but rather than go into Link Decoder, I'm actually going to go into Lingaribo here, because I figure I can counter the Dracotail Flame this way, and I can at the very least see what I can find off my Allure of Darkness here. They chose not to activate it. We find a White Rabbit, so we can banish that and then summon. That might have been a little bit of a greedy play. Like, if I hadn't drawn another Dark Monster, I would not have wanted to banish March Hare or Wizard, so that play was super debatable. I think it was a little bit greedy, honestly, but I wanted to see what I drew. What can I say? The boat's a boat, but the box could be anything, you know? Anyway, I'm going to go Wizard at Ignister. They're going to chain Ghost Spell, and I'm going to chain March here. I think that was also a misplay on my part. I probably should have March here and then Wizard, because Wizard gives me more bodies. Although I guess it kind of doesn't, because I still got the Dormouse summon anyway, right? Anyway, at this point, I'm like, okay. They have a Dracotail Flame that's useless. They have Malulu +1 random card. We're just going to go into Heart Scripter plus Access Code, and I'll even keep up the Lingarimo because it's funny. However, they were still getting past priority, and I was pretty sure it was going to be Nibiru. That said, we're definitely not out of plays here, depending on what we find off this Maxi. So here's the Nib. We get 2 draws. Finding Fua and Druiswarm. Druiswarm will definitely do it. We can banish the Heart Scripter out of the graveyard, Heart Scripter F in order to summon. Now I can link off Druiswarm plus the Nib token for Dark, the Dark Charm, or Gloomy. This won't quite be lethal, but I can still get rid of their Nib and also set up a board. But I guess they might have thought I had lethal because they decided to just surrender here, which is definitely, obviously, completely fine with me if they would have conceded a little bit early. So yeah, there's another example of just setting up an OTK through the opponent's turn, through the Nibiru and all that fun stuff. So that's all I got for games for this one. Let me go ahead and show you the deck list, and then we'll finish off here. Alright, so here is my list for Maliss, and there's really not that much out of the ordinary going on. It's kind of wild how Maliss has had so many of its starters and extenders hit, and at the same time, it doesn't really need to change how it's building its deck in order to, you know, still be a very high-tiered threat. I think if I had to be honest with how I feel about Maliss in this meta, I think it's probably upper tier 2. Now, at the time I'm recording this, it is December 14th, and I haven't seen the Duelist Cup results yet. I think this is going to be posted like almost 2 weeks in advance. So maybe Maliss will sweep up in the Duelist Cup. That is certainly a possibility. But in my experience on Ranked Ladder in the Duelist Cup, I just have not found Maliss to be quite on the level after the ban list as stuff like Dracotail or Mitsurugi variants, or I haven't faced against Orcus in a minute actually, but I can actually see an argument for Maliss being lower tier 1. It'd be somewhere in there, right? The end of tier 1, the top of tier 2, I think is where Maliss should be. Either way, I was definitely not... I was sleeping pretty hard on this deck to have put it in tier 3 on that last tier list there, but I'm going to make a new one, a new tier list that is, once I see those Duelist Cup results. So, yeah, even though Maliss hasn't really changed how it's built in the grand scheme of things, it does change how it's comboed, or how it combos, rather. Check out my combo guide linked down below if you want to see that. For the extra deck, I kind of had 2 flex spots towards the end of it, and I decided to use Dark and Lizardos. Lizardos is a pretty good substitute for Splash Mage in certain scenarios. I probably could have used it actually in one of those games that I'm thinking about it. I just kind of always forget this card exists, but able to banish a Maliss monster out of the graveyard is a cost, which is always nice. And then Dark is really nice because there are just a lot of dark monsters kind of floating around in the meta between like Mitsurugi and Orcus, and even Dracotail has like branded stuff and Malulu, so there's some opportunities to steal stuff out of the graveyard to potentially climb into like an access code. But yeah, I think that's pretty much all I have to say about this deck, about this build. So definitely let me know what you think in the comments below of the build of Maliss as a whole, and we'll see just how well it sweeps up in the Duelist Cup once those results are tallied up. Alright, that's going to go ahead and do it for now. Thank you so very much for watching. Let us move on now to the outro, so we can thank our YouTube members and patrons. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which by the way is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.